And on today's show, why QLACs may be a blockbuster retirement strategy. Part one of this week's series on advanced retirement strategies with nationally recognized retirement expert, author, and platform speaker, and adjunct professor at the American College, Curtis Cloak. Hi everyone, I'm Steve Savant, syndicated financial columnist and contributing author to Innsmark, Life Specs, and Backroom Technician. Let's get down to business. Welcome to the show, Curtis.
Thank you, Steve. Good to be here.
Wow, third time you and I on the set. We're going to have some fun today. Everybody, we just came back from an Annuity Summit, Curtis, where only 20% of our entire agent audience knew what a QLAC was. Is that shocking to you?
Doesn't surprise me a bit.
Now, people say, well, we've had Curtis on before, and why do I have him on? He has a monster retail business. He has invented annuity software that helps you compare different issues like SPIAs and DIAs. We're agnostic. We don't care who wins. It's a great platform, and the client really loves the objectivity, don't they, Curtis?
They really do.
Curtis, top of the table producer. Anybody that's making money in our business that plays at the top of the table or Form 400 producer I'm listening to. Curtis, you're not only a great producer, but actually you are really the professorial guy. I really like, your American College now. You're the Mr. Retirement guy, Everybody's looking to you now for the kind of next move up. And QLAC, with this new IRS ruling, this is huge. It's
a very big deal. There's going to be some new opportunities that are going to come to play for clients and the opportunity to take some tax advantages they hadn't considered in taking risks off the table at the same time.
Now, let's just walk through it because, we're kind of an acronym industry. Why don't you walk me through what's QLAC mean, what product can I use with it?
So QLAC is represented, the term represents Qualified Longevity Annuity Contract. QLAC is intended to be for pre-tax dollars. It can be inside of a defined contribution plan. It can also be inside an IRA. It can be your IRA asset. There's going to be some limitations, of course, on what can and can't be, and it really only represents a deferred income annuity.
So only DIAs.
Only DIAs.
That's it.
There were a number of comments and a number of conversations that went on in Washington, D.C. with a number of manufacturers trying to get them to consider GLWB and other withdrawal benefit products, and they just basically declined to accept any of those because of this is a product that's to have zero cash surrender value. This is a product that's intended solely to protect longevity risk if I live too long. So the only product that the federal government embraced as part of the current regulations, and won't speak about what may or may not happen in the future, but are the deferred income annuities.
Now, carriers had to really get it together fast then because they're just inventing these products. This is all brand new to a lot of agents. They didn't even know what a DIA was.
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I think LIMRA formulated a committee of manufacturers that have deferred income annuities, and they basically got them together and said, what questions do we have that has really not been answered in these specifications, with the release in July of 2014, and there were 70 of those questions. And so they're, I think, working through those. I think a lot of the carriers were trying to determine which one of their products didn't require new filing, but just simply amendments, and which ones were the language in the gut of the contract was such that they actually had to refile to actually legitimately do a QLAC. So there is one carrier that is just biting at the chump, I think, to release, and I think they're probably ready. I haven't heard they've come out yet, but I do believe there'll be a few knocking out probably right after first quarter, but by mid next year we'll have a significant number of QLACs. The big question is going to be, because there's many more questions around the deferred contribution plans. You got fiduciary issues, you've got DOL issues, you've got a whole bunch of issues that go on with DC plans. Question is, what products will we have for institutional marketing, and what plan administrators will agree to actually let them in? Just because the QLAC exists doesn't mean that employers and plan sponsors will say, yeah. I mean, they don't say yes to a lot of stuff that's available and approved by DOL today. So this doesn't mean just because it's available, you're going to be able to get it in your plans.
Well, hopefully you can get past the bureaucracy of the admin people involved. Now, Curtis, one of the big plays here, and the reason we're even talking about this is required minimum distribution delay. I mean, this is huge. And so we have people piling up at 70.5, executing their calculations every year at 12/31. Now we're looking at being able to push this back how far?
Up to age 85.
Age 85. And it doesn't have to go into one policy.
No, we actually, and a little ahead of the slides here, but we actually believe that there'll be an opportunity. Though I was speaking to one of the tax experts at Ed Slott here not too long ago in San Diego, and he believed that the regulations already identified the opportunity to utilize a Roth conversion from a QLAC. I'm not sure that I see that language yet, but I anticipate that may be a possibility. So for that reason, we're recommending that when QLACs are being considered, that don't take the QLAC and just go buy one. Why don't you buy it in smaller chunks, like maybe 4 chunks or 5 chunks, depending on what portion and dollar amount that they actually move to the QLAC. And we're recommending that they have smaller chunks so that they can actually afford to bracket bump lower brackets, and maybe they can afford to chunk over a few of those to Roth, where now they've got longevity credits for that Roth IRA, but they have no taxable income when they get to the start date of age 85.
So if my understanding is if you're married, you and your wife have $125,000 apiece. Is that not so?
Yeah, so do you want to go through
We'll catch it on the second break, but basically the format is that we're talking about a chunk of change. For singles, it could be 125.
Up to 120. So it's 25% of the total value of your pre-tax dollars, not to exceed 125. That's good for if you're married, both spouses, of course.
That's huge.
And you can buy it as early as the manufacturers allow you to purchase them. Now, we expect as DIAs exist. I mean, you can buy a DIA today at 20. Now, it depends on the manufacturing limitations, but you can technically, there's DIAs out. You can buy it 1 and turn on at 90. I mean, they're that broad in terms of flexibility. But we think that the real target to focus on QLACs are those really young, successful individuals, maybe in their 40s even, who have enough pre-tax where they already qualify to do the max 125. If you can delay one at 40, 125 apiece per spouse to age 85, the amount of income that you've discounted as a purchase at 40, you just won't even imagine, especially if we've got longevity history in one spouse. That's pretty big. And if we can look for maybe some bracket bumping opportunities along the way, where if we put it in smaller chunks and we can get some of that to Roth along the way, we may not have all that be taxable at age 85. But there's some flexibility. Just because we say you can go up to age 85 doesn't mean you have to turn it on at 85. Now, clearly, if you're not delaying past 70 and a half, no reason to buy QLAC. But if you want to go past 70 and a half to whatever age beyond 70 and a half, the QLAC fits. Most of these products will let you pick 85, but actually let you change your mind on the start date in case something happens and you say, well, I said 85, but let's recalculate it and let's do it at 83.
We come back from the break. We're going to go through the list of the basics of QLAC so you can understand the rules of engagement and how we can play. Huge introduction, Curtis. We'll be right back after the commercial. It's not how much money you make for your clients, it's how much money they get to keep, especially in retirement. But retirement income could cause Social Security benefits to be taxed. One tax advantage alternative is life insurance designed as a non-modified endowment contract that can generate tax-free income without taxing Social Security benefits. These contracts offer differing funding options depending upon your client's risk tolerance. For more information on how life insurance can be part of your retirement planning, just email me at steve@downtobusiness.tv. Brought to you by Ash Brokerage, the practice enhancement company. Welcome back to our second segment. Of course, I'm with the professor himself, Curtis Cloak, Mr. Dia. Curtis, let's walk through the basics here. It looks like our total amount that we can play with is 25% of our total qualified plan, not to exceed $125,000. Did I get that right?
Yep, that's exactly right. So take all your pre-tax dollars, it could be a number of things, and then add them up, and 25% not to exceed $125,000.
Now, the delay not only lets my annuity accumulate, some of these numbers at 80 and 85 are huge, but I'm getting tax-favored treatment on this now.
Yeah, understand you're already inside the shell of a pre-taxed account, so you really aren't adding any pre-tax value than you already have in that context. And of course, it's 100% taxable when you turn it on. So I don't really see any real tax advantage.
But I get to delay it.
But you get to
delay.
The benefit is that you get to delay the RMDs from 70 and a half to whatever date you targeted.
That recalculates my RMDs. If I can take 125, or if I'm married, $250,000 off the table, that could have an impact.
Yeah, think if you're 40 or 50 years of age and you put 125 per spouse, well, the calculated value of that at 70 and a half could be, $1 million between the two of you, or depending on what market does. And so you've just shrunk down whatever's left over not in the QLAC on what your RMD calculations have to be. So it's a significant, tax play.
Huge. Curtis, tell me about this 10,000 increment. I mean, are they accounting for inflation on this?
Yeah, there'll actually be some indexing that the government's going to be putting out from year to year, and they'll adjust that for inflation when inflation is enough in $10,000 increments in terms of the 25% threshold of the 125.
This is really a huge deferred tactic, and I really love it. And the DIAs, the longer I can hold that position, those income numbers are huge.
That's correct.
Well, let's go here and let's look at the second slide. I want to talk about the eligibility issues. The QLAC has to make payouts, and it has to be 80. It can't go farther than 85.
That's correct. You got to begin those income payments at age 85.
And they're fixed payments.
And they're fixed payment. Well, you can actually do a COLA. They allow a COLA adjustment, and you can actually do joint life. So if you're married with a spouse, you're able to do joint life as opposed to just single life.
What is your top compounded COLA number? And you don't have to mention the carrier, but just what is that number right now?
Well, we were doing some pretty high COLAs, and I think the carrier realized that they need to do some adjustments. So I'm going to say the top COLAs are going to probably range in the 5% range.
Wow, and that's compounded.
Yeah, there are some factors that come into play in that calculation, but we'll see common carriers do up to 4, 4.5, but 5 is the peak.
When you talk about you could do this individually, have you seen any of the CANEX, off CANEX, the DIAs on joint with your spouse? What's that number look like?
Well, it depends, again, what age you deposit the money and on what age you turn it on. And it varies. You could vary daily based on who chooses today to be competitive over the previous carrier and what's going on with 10-year treasuries.
Are you shocked that when you go out to CANEX, I think I have to go out to CANEX almost on a weekly basis now. It changes that much. Yeah,
we're working on custom retirement cases for advisors and our clients around the U.S., and so we've got an analytical team that's just building retirement plans all day long, and I can tell you that it changes daily what we might have done. And of course, these quotes, when you get them, they range from a rate lock period of 7 days to 30 days. Now, once you get paperwork in, you might have another 45 to 60 days to get the monies rolled or transferred or exchanged. But you have a narrow window of time. So if we've got cases that we presented all along the way, and we run out of a quote with a rate lock, and today we go in and we redo those numbers will be different. Tomorrow we go in and maybe a completely different carrier. So if you're looking at these things, you can't just assume that what you saw yesterday is the best deal or the worst deal. I mean, they move around quite a little bit, more than you'd expect.
I can understand how QLACs work with new plans. How about existing plans?
Well, the regulations allowed, and I don't actually have the date in here, I wished I did, but there's a date in the regulations that it identified that said if you had a qualified DIA contract, you could convert it to a QLAC, allowing those payments to be delayed. Now, the question is going to be, does that product's carrier, does the structure going to allow? But, if all the stars line up, you could technically convert your existing qualified DIA to a QLAC contract.
Curtis, if I have advisors watching this show that have affluent clients and they've done retirement modeling similar to how you presented in your Thrive University, do you think that a lot of our advisors are going to have to go back to their clients now because this could change the map and their model of retirement?
This is a complete game changer. Absolutely a complete game changer. So we've already talked about those. One target for this is going to be those guys that have clients, in their 40s, young clients that have already succeeded enough that they have a large amount of qualified dollars, and it's perceived that the contributions for which they're going to continue aren't going to go away anytime soon. So you definitely want to shrink dollars that have to have RMD calculations at 70.5. So those are your first target. Second target are those clients maybe approaching retirement that have so much pre-tax qualified dollars they're going to have to take an RMD on, that when you start out of the gate in retirement, that the income gap minus Social Security, pension, or whatever their automatic income sources are going to be are so high that the RMD is going to force so much in taxes that they just don't need that kind of cash flow. So this QLAC you may have some situations where you can move monies to a QLAC and suddenly lower your RMDs, or as I like to say, legally compress those RMDs so that you can actually get your RMDs down where the distribution is more closely to the gap where you're not inefficient with tax.
Well, that's all the time we have for today. Remember, before moving forward with any of the ideas on the show, always consult your tax advisor, legal counsel, or your broker-dealer compliance officer. Missed an episode? Just hop out to our video archives. And remember, you could be wiser as an educated advisor. I'm Steve Savant. We'll see you tomorrow.